One by one, police removed the activists occupying Lützerath. Authorities say several hundred left the village voluntarily. Most others resisting peacefully, as officers moved in to dislodge them from tree houses, suspended platforms, and the rooftops of abandoned homes. Their goal? To stop energy giant RWE from excavating lignite, the dirtiest form of coal, from deep beneath the village.
Just by burning the coal from under the village, Germany is breaking the Paris Climate Agreement. And at a time when the climate crisis is escalating, we have to make sure that emissions are drastically reduced, and that's why coal mining has to stop here now.
The German government has struck a deal with the energy company to phase out coal by 2030. The demolition of this village is part of a compromise. Excavate here now, spare others in the future.
This means that a large part of the villages actually earmarked for demolition will not be demolished. Localities where hundreds of people still live will not lose their homes. I do think that protest needs symbols, but Lützerath, where nobody lives anymore, is a wrong symbol.
With the war in Ukraine and the energy crisis, coal has seen a revival in Germany. Still, experts doubt that the coal underneath Lützerath is really needed.
Our studies and also other studies show that it's not necessary to mine the coal, especially beyond and below the village of Lützerath in Northern Westphalia, because we do have enough coal in other areas of Garzweiler and the other mining regions that is necessary to meet the energy transition and also the climate goals.
But in the end, it's energy company RWE who legally owns the village, and they want to stick to their plans. They expect profits worth several billion euros from the additional coal. The police operation to clear the activists has proved complex and highly divisive as Germany grapples with its energy transition.
DW correspondent Leonie von Hammerstein is in Lützerath and joins us now. Leonie, are many protesters left there?
Well, Terry, it's very hard to estimate just how many protesters are left here, just because of the situation is quite dispersed and dynamic. But a couple of those who are still left here, you can see behind me, they are in tree houses and hanging onto those tree houses. There are also still some protesters left in the houses and the barns of Lützerath, and activists have told us about a tunnel system underneath the village, where also there's still a number of protesters down there, which will slow down the process of heavy machinery that the police can bring in order not to put those protesters in the tunnels in danger.
How much resistance have the protesters been putting up there, Leonie? Has there been any violence?
Well, there have been some bottles, some rocks, some fireworks thrown at police. Some protesters did resist the police operations, but we do have to state that that's the minority, and that's something a police spokesperson has also confirmed. On the part of the police, violence from the police towards protesters, activists have also told me that there have been instances of violent handling of protesters, but all in all, we have to see that it has been quite a quiet and peaceful eviction. And I think it's also partly due to the fact that there's immense amount of police here who are moving in with heavy machinery and going much quicker than was expected. So morale among the activists is a bit lower, also because of the weather. The winds and the rain have made it really difficult, especially in the tree houses, in the structures high up. But people, the activists here that are still here, want to stay here as long as possible and draw attention to the climate crisis, to the open mine pit right next door, and want to sort of, broadcast the message that coal needs to stay underneath this village. So they are quite determined.
Now, climate activists have been clashing with fossil fuel companies all over Europe for decades. Why has this village, Lützerath, become such a flashpoint?
Well, it's become kind of a symbol of a country that is trying to move away from the burning of fossil fuels, but finds itself in the middle of an energy crisis. And in this conflict around Lützerath, you have the German government on the one hand and RWE, who say the coal underneath Lützerath is necessary to secure energy supply in the country. And then on the other hand, you have, and they are backed by court rulings and studies, but then on the other hand, you have the activists who are also backed by studies and scientists who say, no, this coal is not needed and Germany would break its international climate commitments if it were to dig up the coal and burn it. So those, it has become sort of a symbol of that struggle, and that is why there is so much attention on this little village of Lützerath.
Leonie, thank you very much. Our reporter Leonie von Hammerstein there in Lützerath.